First off, the packaging, and let me just state that the original design for the packaging for this line was the best. That's a fact. It's just the sheer expression of Godzilla combined with the red and black marble throughout, along with the portraits with the holofoil text, is simply stunning, and I wish they continued to use this more for recent releases. The back also shows off some promotional images of the figure with lots of Japanese text that of course I can't understand, so. Now here we have a look at the figure itself, and I feel for the first attempt, they nailed the sculpt wonderfully. Godzilla looks like he should, considering this is based off the suit from Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, also known as the Moge Goji suit. First, however, the biggest point of contention with this early release was that Tamashii Nation screwed up with the decals on the eyes. So unfortunately, when you're looking at him from the front, he's gonna look a bit confused, and it looks even worse in the light. If you're trying to get him to look intimidating, then don't try to capture him from the front. Now whether or not this is a deal breaker for you, then your mileage will vary. I managed to get away with taking photos of him using low light settings, but at some point I just gave up because of how distracting it can be. This guy is pretty limited. For the first release in the series, it was kind of expected, but you can kind of move his arms. Now, okay, listen, I got this guy recently, it was brand new, so his joints are a lot stiffer than they need to be. I did kind of loosen up the arms a bit so I could move them a little more. However, once I got the reissue, I just put this guy right back in his packaging to keep him in mint condition. But you can move the arms a bit. The hands, you can swivel them around. The neck and the head, you're able to move up this much, I would say, is the safe point. And what's cool about this is that you can actually set Godzilla up using the tail and the amazing articulation in this tail to kind of make it look like he's swimming. In terms of neck articulation, it's pretty standard, what you would expect. Just be careful you don't move it too much, the head will pop off. And the jaw is able to open this wide and close. Now, unfortunately, these early releases had something of what I like to call slack jaw syndrome. Basically, the bottom jaw is on a ball joint, which means you can... the mouth gets into all these weird positions, and it makes him look even more derp than he needs to be. It doesn't help that his eyes are already screwed up. Cone dog! Now, in terms of leg articulation, you can kind of move them to and fro a bit. Problem is that the sculpt interferes with the movement here, as you can see, so it prevents it from moving any farther than that, and that's kind of unfortunate. I mean, you can still get Godzilla to look like he's walking a bit, but it's not ideal for posability, so unfortunately very limited in this respect. And also you can kind of turn the waist, however the spines are going to interfere with that, so you want to be careful not to chip any of them. Kind of give him the splits. Of course, the main star in terms of articulation is the tail, and this has to be one of the best tails in the line. The articulation is great. Most of these are on ball joints, and some segments are connected into two, and then it ends over here around, I guess, the fifth segment right there is where the articulation stops. But you can get a lot of posability from this, and it's good hard plastic, so it'll be able to stand up if you need it to. Now, in terms of detail, this guy is absolutely awesome. The paint job, really nicely done. I must say, I love the paint job on the charcoal black look for this Godzilla. Get a look at this guy. You know, aside from the unfortunate paint job with the eyes, which you're able to kind of get around if you use a low light setting, but as you can see, I got a high brightness here, so the eyes are definitely going to stand out to you more. In terms of detail though, the teeth are really nicely done. For the most part, you still have the classic two sets of teeth, two rows of teeth going on there. And it looks great on this Godzilla. Lots of great little detail on the skin, the scales of Godzilla, all the way down to the spines, which I believe these are a translucent material they used for these spines. But the paint job on them are like a nice bone white color, which I think was a good choice for this release. And the detail just continues down all the way to the tip. On the underside, you get the nice smooth area where he drags his tail along the ground, all the way to the feet. The paint job on the feet are using a very similar bone color, more white, with a gradient to black as it reaches to the toes. Underneath, you got some detailing going on the feet with the legal information on the bottom. But overall, the detail on this Godzilla is really, really good. And they did a great job with the detailing. If only they fixed that eye issue. Now, this was the first edition release. So if you got the first edition and you were lucky enough, you would get a beam effect. Check this out. So yes, if you did get the first edition release, you did get these accessories. What you have here is the shockwave blast effect for the base, which has kind of become the norm when it comes to these figures. And it's a nice clear blue. Comes with the stand, and of course the beam effect. Overall, it's a really nice looking beam, and it's probably one of my favorites in the line. I love the clear middle, and then it gets blue towards the ends, which is very reminiscent of. And of course, to use it, all you gotta do is just set it up, open Godzilla's mouth, and put that sucker in there. It's sculpted to match the mouth of Godzilla, so it works perfectly. It can be used with some of the other releases in the line as well. However, it always works best with this Godzilla, of course. Really quickly, we're going to go through some size comparisons with Godzilla and other monsters in the line, as well as some of the other Godzilla releases as well. So, I would have to rate this one on a scale. The sculpt is fantastic, but also limits the articulation. The paint, however, is really well done, aside from the decals on the eyes. Despite that, for their first attempt, I think they did a wonderful job on this fella. However, given the aftermarket prices on this first edition, I would only suggest this one for completionists, who absolutely must have the Bloom Beam effect. Otherwise, you're better off saving some money going for the cheaper 1995 Birth version. Now next time I will be going over the reissue, or the second edition release for this guy, and I'll be going over the differences between the two. Sadly, I couldn't find any reviews on the reissue on YouTube, so I said, hey, wouldn't it be glorious to be the first one? Now, I also want to give a shout out to the Facebook group that I'm now a part of. It is the Gojira's Monster and Mech Photography Club. So if you got a knack for taking photos of your favorite kaiju or mechs in a really sweet setups or dioramas, then please join in. We'd love to have you on board, and we'll look forward to your contributions to our growing group. I will leave a link in the description below, so join in. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace.